We're about to start the second half of the program for today, and we've got a very exciting lineup because our official opening ceremony is actually going to happen now. You're going to experience an audio-described dance, and Deborah is going to explain or give you a little synopsis of what the dance is about. And for us in Africa, it's a pioneering initiative. But for Joel, it's one of many initiatives. So forgive us for any shortcomings, and I hope you appreciate the skill of description is quite different in dance as compared to tourism and in film. So sit, relax, and enjoy. Thank you.
There's still people coming there. Thank you, Shakila. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Deborah Ewing. I'll describe myself. I'm a middle-aged white woman wearing all black pants and shirt and a long green linen jacket, and I have blonde hair, and I wear blue-framed glasses. So, A New African Dawn is an experimental dance drama that brings Bharatanatyam, Kathak, and traditional African music into dialogue, while pioneering the use of audio description as a core artistic element. The work is not only a meeting of dance and musical traditions, but also an exploration of how performance can be made accessible to audiences who are blind or visually impaired. The story draws on African mythology of shapeshifters to represent different tribes: the hunter lioness and the healer antelope. Their journey from suspicion and conflict to shared rhythm and parallel performance becomes a metaphor for society's learning to strengthen themselves by embracing diversity. As the performance unfolds, music, movement, narration, and audience participation converge into a collective act of making. This union of sight, sound, and voice signals the arrival of a new dawn, an inclusive artistic and social vision where no one is left outside the circle of creation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tobegile Dombiela Ngambanda. I am a very curvy black Zulu woman. I have an afro that represents Goku. If you don't know who Goku is, the cartoon character with superpowers that come out of his hair, wearing an all-white outfit, pants, and a white long linen shirt. I am happy to be here, and I have a beautiful big smile. Welcome to the new dawn. In the forest, day is breaking, birds are flying, and animals are awakening. Today, you are invited to see and hear the story of two tribes who live apart, coming together to find a new way of living, a new dawn, connected by the sounds that you'll be hearing me play. It's all indigenous instruments, predominantly South African, but from around the African continent. We've got shakers, we have chimes of different kind, we have shakers and whistles, and the bird whistle is from Japan, the okra. Enjoy.
There are two dancers, Sonali Hariprasad, a petite young Indian woman with long black hair. She is the antelope and the healer. She wears a long, full gold skirt with orange border and a cropped navy and gold patterned blouse and scarf draped over her right shoulder. Her hair is tied in a bun with flowers around. She wears a gold adornment on her forehead and parting and African beaded earrings. Sonali has thick black eyeliner, gold eyeshadow and bright red lipstick. She is barefoot with brass bells around her ankles and gold bangles.
Siddharthya Pillai, a medium-height, muscular Indian female dancer, is the lioness and the huntress. She wears a red sari with gold border. The scarf is draped like pants between her legs and over her left shoulder. She wears a gold cropped blouse. Her shoulder-length dark hair is tied in a bun with flowers around. She wears a gold adornment on her forehead and African beaded earrings. She has thick black eyeliner, gold eyeshadow, and bright red lipstick. She is barefoot with anklets.
Ladies and gentlemen, on your tables is a sample of the fabrics that are worn by the dancers. Somewhere in the middle of your table, maybe you could pass that around so you can feel the textures of the fabric. And also pinned to that is a sample of the beadwork. The dancers use two classical Indian hand gestures during the performance to depict a flower and an animal head. They are demonstrating these at the moment as they approach. We invite you to make these gestures with the dancers. The flower is shown by opening your hands, palms up, and stretching out your fingers as far as you can like petals. The animal head is portrayed by pressing your first two fingers to your thumb, like a snout shape, and raising the other two fingers straight up like horns. If you can see the dancers, you can mimic their hand movements. If not, we ask your sighted neighbors to assist you in forming those hand shapes. Thank you.
At the watering hole.
The antelope steps forward on the right side of the aisle, crouching with her knee on the ground and her chin down. She then lifts her head, springs up, depicting an antelope with her right hand. The third and little fingers pointed up like horns. The antelope prances forward, spins, back straight, head erect, turning from side to side, her hand cupped like an ear twitching. The antelope heads to the watering hole. She bends her legs, dips her head low, and lifts it sharply. Wide eyes alert, darting as she jumps on stage.
The lioness approaches. The lioness takes heavy, stalking steps forward. Arms extending in strong arcing movements, hands tensed, fingers curled and flexed like claws. The lioness climbs onto the stage.
The antelope freezes. The animals face each other and circle. Once, twice. The lioness paws the air. The antelope dodges, jerking side to side.
They dance faster in sweeping spins past each other, switching sides. The antelope stepping high, the lion crouched, stomping. The lioness pounces, grips the antelope's ankle. The antelope shakes free and takes a flying leap. The lioness falls back, thrown off her feet. The lioness transforms into a human hunter. The lioness crawls forward, clawing the ground, spins and springs to the right. She leaps, turns and lands center stage. In a broad squat, legs apart, knees bent, hands in claws, fingers curled. Her feet pound out a rapid beat, heels moving closer together. Her hands point down to the right, up, then down to the left. Her wrists twist, hands switching from flower to animal head. She hops onto her right toes, bends up her left knee. Lunging to the left, she fans her left hand across her face, signaling transformation. She repeats this, rocking right and left. From a half squat, the lioness springs onto her toes, stamps her heels, hands raised and crossed above her head, switching between flower and animal head. Her arms move to her sides, up to her chest. She repeats this, facing away, with heels together, knees bent, wrists crossed above her head. Hands switching between flower and animal head, hopping onto her toes, stamping her heels. She spins to face forward, left hand on her waist, right hand at her chest in thumbs up. The hunt. Huntress squats, lunging to the right, her right hand shading her eyes. She looks to the horizon. She lunges left, her right leg outstretched, left hand raised. She scans again. She stands on her heels, lifting her toes, lifting her heels. She stomps rhythmically to the right, to the left. She reaches her right hand over her shoulder, pulling an arrow from a quiver. Raising her right arm, she bends her elbow back. Left arm outstretched, as if holding a bow. She takes low, measured steps, scouting for prey. The huntress darts back and forth, running, leaping. She hops on the spot, sinks into a low squat, comes up onto her toes, kicks her left leg out. Gazing up, bow and arrow raised, she points her index fingers. She jerks back her right arm and releases her fingers, miming shooting a bird. Building the fire. huntress hops onto her toes, stamps her heels, sinks into a half squat, her right hand to her chest, with her first two fingers and thumb touching. The left hand outstretched, palm facing down. She swipes her right hand down sharply, palm open, feeding the fire. Repeating this 4 times on each side, stomping left, right, left, right. She stamps and springs towards the fire, hand to her chest, depicting the animal head. Stretched out diagonally, depicting flowers. She repeats this 4 times in quick succession, making a half turn to the left and the right, stomping. She raises and lowers her arms, fingers touching, forming a circle. Stretched wide, she flutters her hands like fire, makes a large circle, raising her left leg, raising her right leg. She repeats, her hand circling, quivering like flames. Alone. The huntress stands proudly, head high, her right leg crossed behind her left. Her left hand rests on her waist. She holds her right hand at her chest in a thumbs up. She looks proud and haughty. The huntress looks right. Her shoulders drop slightly. She frowns, uneasy, looks down, pensive. Her hands stretch outwards, as if reaching to someone. She looks to the left, sorrowful. The huntress looks ahead, her palms upturned, just below her chest, her expression desolate. The huntress is hunched over, sitting on the ground, holding her knees, head tucked, her eyes mournful, head bowed. The huntress walks off stage, alone. The antelope transforms into a healer.
The antelope limps through the forest, dragging her left foot in long, slow steps. Her right hand an animal head. She pauses, draws her right hand across her forehead. Her left hand points to the wounded ankle, eyes narrowed in pain. Springing upright, she raises her right hand, spins to the right and to the left, one hand at her chest, the other twirls above her head in a flourish, and she stands, knees bent slightly, right foot crossed in front of her left, and her right hand fans across her face. She gives a peaceful smile.
The cleansing.
The healer takes wide steps to the right, her toes echoing the water sounds. Arms raised, she makes wave-like hand movements, descending to her right, signaling the waterfall. She prances, knees high. Stretching up, she pulls her hands down, plunging into the water, her outstretched arms moving gentle, rippling waves. She crouches in the river, arms extended. Her left arm runs along the right arm as if bathing. She repeats the motion along her left arm. Dipping both hands, she scoops water over her face. She stands, spinning twice to the right, bending to the left. She points with both hands to the toes of her injured leg. She makes gentle, sweeping motions across the leg.
Fetching herbs, fruit, and flowers.
The healer draws a tree from the ground with her hands. She holds her arms high, fingers interlaced, spins spins, flutters her fingers, gesturing leaves and branches. She makes a plucking motion, cups her right hand to show carrying fruit. The healer spins, wrists together, palms open, fingers closed, her hands twirl from side to side, blossoming. She pulls her fingertips to her nose, inhales, closes her eyes, and releases her fingers. Her hands pressed together in a bowl shape. She jumps to the right, left leg crossing behind, jumps to the left, spins, lifting her cupped hands above her head. She dips forward with knees bent, spreads her arms wide. The bowl splits, scattering petals and fruit. Her left leg outstretched, she twirls. Her arms swirl as if draping a scarf over her head, enrobing herself in fragrance.
Din din tha din din tha din din da tak din din da da kran da kat da kran da kat da kran da kat da da kran da kat 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 da kran da din din da din din da din din da.
The healer was stamping right, left, right, spinning on her toes, arms raised, wrists crossed, palms and fingers stretched. Facing forward, she spins on the spot, crossing her hands in front of her chest and stretching them out. She repeats this, spinning left on her right toes, hands crossed above her head, then in front of her chest. Standing center stage, with her arms raised, curving gently up and out, she spins and stamps left, right, left, spins again, stopping with both arms raised, stamping left, right, left.
This is the part of the new dawn where we all join together. We're gonna clap. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna have to give it some itis energy.
Coming together. The huntress steps on stage, arms behind her back. She looks curious, wary. She hesitates.
The healer beckons the huntress to join her, stretches her arm out toward the audience, making an embracing motion, showing the hunter, we are all part of this community.
The huntress stands beside the healer. She lifts her sari to show her anklets, steps to the same beat as the healer, lifting her knees and heels, stomping, chin out. She turns her head sharply from side to side.
Faster, let's go faster. Let's see how fast you can go. 1, 2, 3. And
The new dawn.
Both dancers with arms outstretched, sweeping their hand toward the audience. The huntress moves behind the healer.
The dancers raise their hands up and outwards, then to their sides, depicting the rays of the sun.
The healer, with thumbs interlaced, flaps her hands like the wings of a bird.
The dancers cup their hands, stretch up diagonally, right then left, left arms above their heads, right arm stretched out. They spin to the left.
The healer spins again, orbiting the huntress. She extends her right arm at chest level, flicks out her palm gracefully.
The huntress sits in a deep squat, right hand up, palm forward, left hand down.
The healer takes 3 running steps to the right and leaps with her left knee raised high. The huntress does the same to the left. Hands and fingers open petals. They perform a friendship dance, face to face. They raise their right hands, then their left, clapping palms to each other. They hop from left to right, feet crossing behind on each side, and spin to switch sides.
Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu.
The healer and the huntress clasp each other by the right forearm. Right legs forward, they lean back, supporting each other, recognizing their dependency. Their left arms arch back gracefully. The healer is standing. The huntress has her left knee on the ground and right knee bent up. Right arm stretched forward, left arms up, manifesting their connection. The healer and hunter stand side by side, facing front. They raise their hands above their heads, palms together in Namaste. They bow deeply, bringing their hands to their chests in gratitude.
Let's go, guys. Where's my people?
Wow, what did you think of that?
Oh, bravo.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our amazing dance company, Sid, Sonali. Oh, I was able to follow all of that. Did you close your eyes and follow it? So now we're going to commence with our panel that's talking to the topic of dance. I'll just give our dancers a few moments because Sid, who choreographed the dance and who was the lioness, will be taking her seat also on this panel. And this panel will be facilitated by Deborah Ewing, who was primarily the scripter for this. So you heard the two voices of Deborah Ewing and Shika Badu.
Hello again to everybody. We have a panel with 5 wonderful guests this afternoon, 2 of whom are here and to whom you've already had an introduction, but we'll do another one. So I have Joel and Sid here. And we hope that we have 3 people online, so I'll just check with the tech team that we are able to connect with Ros Chalmers, Mary Hanks, and Esther Gago. Okay. So this panel is on the performing arts and real-time AD. As you heard, my name's Deborah. Deborah Ewing. I work with ShazaCin doing script writing and voicing. And I also write books and do a lot of work around children's rights and inclusivity. So AD is a very important part of my work and my passions. Do we have everyone online? Okay, thank you. So welcome to everyone in the room and to those coming online for the panel on the performing arts. With us to discuss the importance, the challenges, and the innovations in AD in the performing arts, we have 5 panelists, and their expertise covers every discipline and every continent. So please join me in welcoming, online from the UK, Ms. Ros Chalmers, MBE. Hi, Ros. Ros is an audio describer with Vocal Eyes, a UK-based AD and visual awareness organization. She also works with the National Theatre, museums, heritage sites, I'm so excited to say circuses and festivals. Ros received her MBE in recognition of her service to the arts and to people with sensory impairments. Welcome, Ros.
Hi.
Good morning to Miss Mary Hanks, who's linking with us from the US. Mary is an independent audio describer of opera. She has described more than 200 performances, but she also describes dance, plays, musical theatre, film, and rodeo. Mary is an activist for disability rights. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
Also joining from the US is Miss Esther Geiger. Esther is a certified movement analyst and a registered somatic movement educator. I should say that again slowly. Those are quite new terms to me and maybe to some of the others in the room, but we're going to hear all about that work. And Esther works with the Laban Bharatanatyam movement system. Here in Durban, we welcome back Dr. Joel Schneider. He's now familiar to you all as the pioneer of the creation, recognition, and adoption of AD across all genres and all around the world. Welcome. Thank you, Joel. Can I have another round of applause? That's okay. And last, because I was allowing her to get her breath back, is Ms. Siddhartha Pillai, who's from South Africa, and she's a Bharatanatyam dancer and choreographer, and it's she who has just treated us to the premiere of her creation, A New African Dawn with audio description. Thank you, Sid, and welcome. Okay, so I'm going to invite each of our panelists to describe themselves, to say a bit more about their work and their journey into audio description, and if they wish to share a turning point or a crusading point in their work. I say crusading because they're all champions of AD in their fields. I'm going to start with Ros because she's going to share a clip that demonstrates live performance AD. It's a clip from a National Theatre production of Paradise. Ros, if you would like to say, we have it ready for you, so if you just cue us and we will play the two video clips. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Deborah. Before I start, thank you very much to Shakila and her team for inviting me to participate in this. And you've got me following that dancing. I mean, for goodness sake. Right, okay, I'm from the UK. I'm a white woman in my 70s. I'm in my early 70s, I hasten to add. I've got wavy grey hair and I'm wearing glasses with grey frames. And I'm wearing a dark red shirt with a black pattern. And grey trousers, though you can't see them. My pronouns are she, her. I've been working in this field since the 1990s. And as Deborah said, I work across genres. I work in film and TV, and I work with museums, heritage sites, and gardens, all of that kind of thing. But honestly, my first love is live description, because I've been working in theatre right from the word go. I was trained at the National Theatre by Dr. Louise Fryer and Andrew Holland, who are probably the best describers in the UK. Excuse me, my voice is going.
Recording stopped.
In the UK. So I work across those genres, but I also train describers. I've trained a lot of describers in the UK, and I've also trained around Europe and in the US, India, South Korea, Canada, and Hong Kong. Even so, I'm not
recording in progress
person on this panel, Joel, am I? And at risk of repeating your earlier experience, I want to show you a little bit of a clip of just a 1 minute clip of Paradise. Now, Paradise, it was 2021. It was a National Theatre performance in 2021. And I want to show you it with just the soundtrack to begin with, because as Rick said earlier, a lot of our listeners are extremely skilled in deciphering meaning from sounds. So if you could play the first one, Deborah, or I'm not quite sure who's doing it, but thank you. If you could just play the first one, that's just a black screen and soundtrack only. I should say I've actually had to retire from live performance relatively recently because I've had an issue with my voice, and nobody really wants to listen to this for 2 hours, and it's a huge loss. It is a huge loss. I often say that I've never worked in anything I love so much that loved me so much back. Anybody who wants to go into audio description for the first time, I don't think you will regret it. I really don't think you will. I've been doing it a long time and I'm never bored with it. I mean, even when I have the Summer of the Sixth, Midsummer Night's Dream, they're always going to be different. They're always going to be a different challenge.
Thank you for that, Ros.
How are we doing for sound?
Okay, we'll go back to the beginning.
Okay. You'll hear a murmur of the theatre audience settling down.
This, would you like to say a bit more, Ros, while we're waiting? Carry on.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I want to show you this is partly because I wanted to give you an idea of what it's like to be able to listen to something with no clues or very few clues about what's happening. But also I wanted to then show you the description so that you could really get an idea of what our blind audience will be missing. This is the very beginning of the show. The audience is meeting characters for the first time. I'm giving it away, there are characters. The audience is meeting characters for the very first time. They're getting to know these people. They're getting to make decisions about these people. They're getting to notice and observe things about these people that they're going to spend the next 95 minutes with. So it's something that's very important at the beginning of the show to get an idea of what's there, what's on stage in front of you. What sort of stylistic choices the director has made, the stage designer has made, the costume designer has made, the lighting designer has made, to get you into the story straight away. What you would hear, if we could hear, at the beginning, is that audience settling down. This was shortly after lockdown, one of the first shows back. Should we try again?
I don't think we're not succeeding here.
Okay, let's just jump straight to the second film then and see what we've got from there. I have to apologise for the state of the voice.
No,
you will know why I don't do this anymore.
Okay, so we're going to go to the clip with AD.
Yes, please.
It looks like we're not getting sound with that either, but we did test them earlier, so I'm not sure. Ros, would you like us to get the tech team working on that, because we're still not getting volume?
Yes, I'll continue.
And yes. Or would you like us? Would you prefer us to come back to you?
I don't want to slow things up for other people. I think we'll just carry on.
Okay.
I mean, Jill very ably showed us the difference between something with a description and something not. What I wanted to stress was the fact that it was in a theatre. In a theatre, you're never quite sure what's going to happen next. With the best will in the world, you have a script there, you have lighting there, you have sound there, and sometimes you don't get sound. What are you going to do then? Sometimes you don't get lighting cues. You know what's going to happen. Sometimes a prop will break, or an actor will forget their lines or fall over. It's happened. Sometimes one of the flats at the back of the stage will fall down. So you've really got to be on your toes the whole time. And this is what I was so appreciating watching the describers of the dance, to see the concentration that was there, because you have a script, but you're never quite sure what's going to happen. You've always got to be on the front foot so you can describe in the moment. In the UK, we call it badger watching. So we're watching things that may or may not happen. You usually get to learn the pinch points of a show, things that are quite difficult, things when, things when parts of the scenery will lift out of sight, and sometimes they will get stuck. So you're always aware of things that are likely to happen. You learn the play a bit like you learn a piece of music. So this is actually this audio description. The audio description during the show is actually the last part of the audio description service. We call that the through description in the UK. But before the blind and partially sighted audience enters the theatre, they will have had sent to them an audio introduction, much like the one that you had at the beginning of Sid's dance performance. An audio introduction which will describe the visual aspects of the show, the cast and costumes, the set, the lighting. And if they want to... Sorry, I can just hear something, sir. Should I be... No, it's not. No, okay. If they want to do this before the show starts, they will go on stage and they will explore the space. So they have half an hour to explore the space, to handle the props, to talk to wardrobe about the costumes and handle the costumes, to talk to wigs and makeup so that they can find out about what the wigs and makeup are like. We've got something coming up on my screen now. Let's see if we can get anything here. I don't want to waste people's time, so let's move on. Okay. So if they want to before the show starts, they will have had an opportunity to go on stage and explore the stage, handle the props and costumes, and talk to some of the actors and ask them to speak in the character voice, so they get a better idea of who people are like, what people sound like. If you're lucky, you'll get to them through the audio introduction as well, and you will embed their voices within the audio description, the audio introduction as well. One of the things that we're very concerned about as describers is that our listeners don't think that this is a sighted person just sort of saying what they think. There's an enormous amount of research that goes into this. There are very, honestly, sometimes very learned articles in the programme that we can draw from that gives context. And we get an opportunity to speak to choreographers, we speak to lighting designers, sound and set designers, costume designers, sometimes the director, and often the stage manager, who can talk about what happened in the rehearsal room. So we can build the audio description with that kind of knowledge, so that we're reflecting what was in the creatives' minds at the time. It's true to say that sometimes that doesn't read on stage. Sometimes they will say that this is meant to be a citadel, this enormous citadel. And you think, well, I probably would have said a castle, or I might have said a stately home, but perhaps citadel wouldn't get the idea across. So the audio description is the product in theatre, is the product of many minds. And we consult blind professionals and we edit our scripts accordingly. And quite often we will have a blind listener in the audience at the time of a dry run. We'll do a dry run before the show and we'll edit our script accordingly from that.
Thank you, Ros. May I come back to you in a moment? Let's just finish the round of introductions and we'll try and sort out our technical issue here as well.
Okay, thank you. There seems to be a little bit of a technical problem going on my end. So, I'll come back. I'll be ready when you're there.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on to Sid. I'm sure you can relate to quite a lot of what Ros said, especially about the consulting and the improvising and the things going.
It's on? Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. So this was my kind of first foray into audio description, especially as an artist. And I was a bit apprehensive at first because as an artist who is relying usually on an audience with sight as a dancer, this is now a totally new experience. So I called up on Tobbs my musician who's now left, but I said, listen, Tubbs, we need to create a big sound. But there was still this responsibility on myself as the dancer and as the director to create something that was inclusive. And it was such a fascinating process for me, and we learned so much. I was saying before the show that my colleague Sonali, the other dancer that you saw, both of us learned how to audio describe our dances. Not perfectly, and we didn't do the script, but we got a glimpse into that world. And during the process, Shakila would feel the different movements that we were doing and try to describe it through her lens, and that was really interesting for us. It's not something that we had done before. But what I did notice, and I was speaking to Deborah about it, is that I had audio description before when we had watched it. I don't know, if it starts playing, I'll just stop playing. Audio description before, whatever we had watched was mainly for Western art forms, so contemporary and ballet. Maybe we missed the audio description dance and Indian dance. So we were kind of in the deep and dark here. We didn't really know how it was going to be done. But we thought, oh no, okay, it's fine. It's been done before. We're okay. And we listened to what experts, like the panelists here, had described. And then we started to find challenges when we were describing, because we realized that ballet and contemporary, beautiful and extremely athletic. I was described as athletic or muscular. I think I'm going to change that description to curvy or shapely. My husband said thick, so we're going to take that description. But we found that actually ballet and contemporary rely on these macro movements, these big gross movements with the limbs, elongating and arching like a pirouette and being on point and leaping through the air. And Indian dance doesn't use that so much. Actually, what we start to use is micro movements. And by micro movements or fine movements, I mean the face. We are very expressive when we dance. I hope that came through. We use our hands. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a test here. I want to see the flower hand gesture, please. The flower hand gesture. Beautiful, beautiful. And the animal. Well done. I was watching as you were doing it the first time, and I was so impressed. So those are fine movements, and Deborah and her team and Shakila, we were now having to negotiate, okay, so how much of the fine movement do we actually need to describe? Because it takes up quite a chunk of the description, as I'm sure you can imagine. Even our footwork is very intricate. The toe is here, the heel is here, the foot is moving that way, the other foot's moving that way. So it's like, how much do you have to describe? What do you describe? And that was a learning process. And I'm not saying we're going to get it right now. I'm not saying we're going to get it right in 10 years. I don't know. I suppose it changes, but we tried, and we were really intentional about what we did and tried to be authentic and genuine to create an immersive experience. So that's my first thought. In higher education, they always say decolonizing the curriculum, and I'm so immune to that word now, but really decolonizing the space, because now we have African music with Indian dance being audio described in English. It's a new world, I think, for all of us, and that's what we wanted to portray in this dance, of being inclusive. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Sid. And I think, that creating a new world. And there's a world of experience out there with our panelists online. We can learn so much from each other and get different perspectives. So it's wonderful we can be in this space together. And with that, I'm going to ask Mary to please give us your introduction and perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Smith Hanks from Houston, Texas here. I was recruited 25 years ago to be an audio describer because of my background in arts education. And well, I started out in opera, and you may want to know some details on how to describe opera. I'm going to tell you very briefly. Okay. The most important thing, know and respect the music, because opera fans are super, super picky. If you speak over their favorite music, they will never forgive you, and they will probably run around town bad-mouthing you, and that's not good for the entire field of audio description. If you are not an opera fan yourself, please work with an expert to have guidance here. Practice your notes with a recording at home before you try to perform. And of course, there's the other issue of the fact that operas are usually performed in their language of composition. You may have to render the words, especially if there are super titles used at your theater, because it's a visual element and now you have to describe it. You're going to have to render the gist of what the singers are emoting. In some cases, if you're really lucky, you're supposed to be able to have multiple people available to do this, but I've asked for a sample of this for more than 10 years now, and nobody has ever been able to provide me one, and then they stopped contacting me. So I think maybe they might have exaggerated. Be prepared to describe on your own your audio description narration, and then rendering the characters too. I use different voices for this because the consumer needs to be able to distinguish. Well, Ross said something interesting. She said that she's never regretted this. I've experienced many obstacles, many almost offenses. Here in the United States, I think the atmosphere is quite different. There is not much respect for accessibility services. People know very little about them. Many arts administrators don't even know what audio description is. So you are going to have to be an advocate, you're going to have to educate, you're going to have to be insistent, you are going to need to work with your local groups and consumers to keep this in front of people until they agree to provide audio description and to not get in the way when it happens. Because one of the obstacles that really upset me at the time was for a world premiere opera, the director had it in his head that no one except an actual employee of the opera could attend rehearsals. And I'm like, well, what about contract employees? And they said, no, he doesn't want that, and we can't go against him. They were not there for me. I went to the composer. I went directly to the composer and told him what was going on. He was outraged. He got the describers in. So we do have a happy ending to that story, but that shouldn't have had to happen. Be prepared, especially in the United States, to face things like this. At the same time, audio description can be really rewarding. I do like telling people about it. I use a mnemonic device when I give little talks. I tell them I'm a live audio describer, LAD for short, and that also describes the people that I need to respect. L is for listener, the consumer above all. A for author. This includes not just the director, but everyone, the actors, singers, dancers, who are realizing this work, this source material performatively, because they may be doing a pretty wild and out there performance. They might be doing Hamlet set in outer space. It's my job to make that vivid and believable. And timing matters. I do need to mention timing. For instance, I was describing a Wagner ring cycle where the gods were propelled across the stage in these very elaborate cranes, but there's a demigod, and he was relegated to using a Segway scooter on the stage. So I had to not wreck the surprise of that, and I had to time it just right so that my listeners would understand why everybody was laughing when this guy comes out on his little scooter there.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I'm going to stop you there. Sorry, I'm going to stop you there just for a minute so we can finish just the round of opening comments, and then we'll come back again. So I'm going to move to Esther, and I hope you're going to give us an education about some of the terms.
Hello. I think I have the audio all right.
Hi, Esther.
I'm Esther Geiger. I'm in the US, in the Washington, D.C. area. I work with audio description for events that are dance or movement based. I have a background in dance, and I'm a certified movement analyst. Deborah had asked us about a particular turning point. For me, it was years ago at a pre-show workshop. A blind fellow told me, "I never go to dance because it's boring. All I have is the music." Asked what he'd need to hear to make it not boring, He said, "The story. I want to know the story." And one of the describers threw up her hands and said, "It's modern dance. There is no story." But she's wrong. Dance always expresses something, even if there's no plot. So I use my movement analysis training and my choreographic awareness in 3 ways. First, I look for the main idea, the essence, the story of a dance. Just labeling each move doesn't work. There's no time, and it doesn't convey meaning. Second, assuming I can see rehearsals or videos and view the piece multiple times in advance, which is the ideal, the kind of research that Roz was talking about, I look at choreographic structure and repeated patterns or movement motifs. That way I can shape the description to reflect the arc of the piece and emphasize movement phrases that recur. Then I choose language that conveys that essence and reveals those patterns. Movement analysis offers me a framework for observing and a broad vocabulary for describing. Let me try and illustrate. I can describe what I'm doing this way. She lifts her arm, rotates at the wrist, then brings her hand down to her chest. This description might be useful for a physical therapy exercise, but naming the actions doesn't illuminate any meaning. All dance is expressive, even if the piece has no narrative story. Something is being shared with the audience. For example, if this same gesture were a moment in the dance when characters are greeting each other, I might describe the gesture as, her arm shoots up, she waves frantically, then taps her chest. Or maybe it's a romantic duet. She stretches up languidly, entwines his head, and folds him into herself. Or possibly the dance is not about characters or relationship, but rather about the formations the group creates while gathering and scattering across the space. She flings her arm up and trots off across the stage to join the group circle. Or I might not mention that gesture at all if it isn't important to the whole of the dance. So to summarize, I observe first for the essential meaning of the piece. I look at the choreographic structure and movement patterns that support that meaning, and then I choose language carefully. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was quite an education. Thank you. I'm going to move to Joel. I've got enough questions here to keep us for a week. So I know one of the instructions from Shakilo is we need to get some objectives out of our panels. So what should we be doing? And one question was, how do we make audio description available everywhere for everyone? I'm not going to necessarily expect you to answer that question, but I think you can give us, a sort of overarching view about the need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me pick up on one word that Esther Geiger mentioned, and that is essence. When I do audio description training, sometimes I will show an image and ask to have everyone describe it in one word. One word. What is it conveying? What is it most important about that image? Later, when you develop a more complete description, every word really should tie back to that essence. I think that's so important, so I wanted to take a moment to say that. The only thing I want to say with regard to accessibility, availability of description, as I alluded to this morning, audio description began, it was an outgrowth of a radio reading service where volunteers are reading newspaper clips, making the newspaper accessible. Volunteers. Wonderful. I did it for 10, 12 years, and it was a wonderful experience. But audio description grew out of that model. meaning volunteers would be describers, and maybe they would see the show once or twice. Maybe they would then perform description based on notes at 1 or 2 performances. You're working with volunteers. You can't ask a full-time commitment of them. I think in the United States, in the performing arts, we haven't grown very far after 45 years from that model. We're beginning to. We're beginning to see the professionalism of audio description. No one expects a sign language interpreter to interpret a show for free. And sign language, usually you have 2 interpreters at a given performance. Audio description needs to be understood and respected in the same way as a professional occupation, requiring training, requiring study, requiring the commitment of time that, of course, a volunteer might not have. Volunteers can be great, professionals can be awful. But the point is, it needs to be respected as a profession. And I, thank you, yes. And simply, I will add on to that, I think because of that volunteer model, this 2 performances per run of a show is no longer acceptable. Why shouldn't a blind person be able to go up, buy a ticket the day of the performance and say, I need the audio description, please, and they say, no problem. It should be available at every single performance. It is a part of doing business. Like they pay for the lights and they pay for the heat. They got to pay for accessibility too. It's a part of doing business. Now, how can we make that happen? One way certainly is to integrate a describer as a member of the cast. Almost a member of the cast. They say almost because they would go to rehearsals. They would learn from the directors, from the performers, what's going on. As Sid mentioned earlier, the performers learn from the audio describer as well, being there. They develop a script, essentially, for the description of that performance, and it's available at opening night. At opening night, and at every performance, if, unlike a cast person, if no one is there to use the description, perhaps the describer can go home and take the night off. Or perhaps, and this is really wonderful and hasn't been done enough, the description is incorporated within the production, in the development of the production. There's a legendary performance of Hamlet in Canada where the describer was built in and delivered all the description in iambic pentameter, right? It was integral to the show. Theater by the Blind in New York, when I first went to see them, I thought, oh wow, they're gonna have great audio description. Add on, so I'll listen to they had no audio description because it's so important. They built in descriptive language within each line, or they had a narrator introduced into the show who described as it went along. Sighted people didn't know the difference, but it was accessible. It's not an add-on then. It's integrated. A couple of examples. Well, I mentioned Hamlet. I mentioned Theater by the Blind. And when you go home tonight, look up on the Google, Stevie Wonder, So What Da Fuss. So What Da Fuss. The man is a genius. He created this wonderful song and decided to make a music video. Wait a second. If he's going to do a music video, it's going to be described. Stevie Wonder, right? He incorporated the description within that video. He even had it voiced by his friend, the rapper Busta Rhymes, so that the description lines, the voicing, all was a part of that video. Look it up. So What Da Fuss with audio description. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Sounds fantastic. Sid, you wanted to pick up on something Joel said?
Yeah, so it's actually what Esther and Joel have said about describing the essence of the piece and actually incorporating it into the piece. as an Indian classical dancer in South Africa, most of my audience, most of the time, even if I'm performing in a temple or to an Indian audience, they will not know what I am doing. And my cousin actually said that to me the other day. He says, I see you perform and it looks nice, but I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know what the story is, because in our society, in the South African society, a lot of people don't understand the language. I don't even understand the language I'm dancing to. I have to use ChatGPT to translate my songs for me. So when we're dancing, we can dance and people don't know what our story is. We do a lot of interpretive dance in Bharatanatyam, in Kathak, and our audience is lost. And what audio description does is it actually now makes it accessible not only to people who are visually impaired, but also to other people, sighted people who have no idea what the language is or what the art form is, because they're not well versed in Bharatanatyam or Kathak or Odissi, whatever the Indian classical arts are. And I would say for Torbs as well, I'm sure she would agree, she's playing her instruments. People just think, oh, she's playing a drum, she's playing something that looks like a violin. But the audio description actually makes it so much more informative and accessible for people. I think we take for granted, and Shakira did mention this in our rehearsals, we take for granted as sighted people what we see. I'll just see an instrument, oh, it's an instrument. But now suddenly with audio description, I learned so much more. So audio description is not just for people who consider themselves visually impaired, but it's actually quite critical for everyone in a multicultural South African society to make our cultures accessible to each other.
Yeah. Very important point. Thank you. I'm going to, at this point, invite questions from the room, because I think we are running late and I'm not sure how much time we've been allocated, but let me go straight to the room. Shakila?
Sorry, I just wanted to find out if our technical team managed to get the video clip working, and also to go back to Mary and ask Mary to tell us a little bit about her description of rodeo, because that is so unusual. It would be wonderful to hear how you got into that, Mary. How you got into that. And we can hear you quite clearly.
Oh, good.
So if you could tell us about how you got into rodeo, and how does that differ from dance when you describe, or from opera?
Well, as you've doubtless figured out, the difference is that rodeo is an emerging experience. It's not rehearsed. You do have to do this by the seat of your pants. And I got into it because this is Texas. We do rodeo, especially there's a Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. They have a huge rodeo with many performances, including concerts, every year. I was recruited to do this by the local radio reading service, who were in charge of getting describers for this. I am lucky in that while I have never been a rodeo performer myself, lots of my friends have been. And I grew up watching it, but the first time I described rodeo, I was working with a man who thought he was describing it, but he was actually talking about the organizers and what a great job they do for charity, not really talking about the action much at all. And when he did talk about the action, he didn't know a header. And he was not really doing audio description. So, and this is what people had been hearing. I like to think I changed that, but yeah, you have to really be attentive to what's going on, but you have to know the sport. It's like anything. You're not going to be able to convey the essence of it if you don't understand what the possibilities of the essence are going to be. Thank you for asking about rodeo.
Thank you. Deborah, can I ask one more question?
Please.
So, Mary, when we were doing our test run and talking, you said something really profound. You talked about, as an activist, and description going through different phases in the USA, and going from sighted people writing exclusively on behalf of what they thought blind people wanted to see, to blind people getting involved. And you used a term that I thought was so profound, and I'd like you to say it here now to everyone.
Well, could you, unfortunately, I used several terms, and I'm not sure which one you meant.
So
Is this blind
apart
source
from visual being made verbal, can you recall what you said the visual needs to be?
I'm sorry.
Do you remember that?
I can't.
So
I'm sorry, could you?
So we talked about the fact that blind persons don't just want clinical description following the action. We also want a balance of a level of interpretation, because it's going beyond.
It's also physical and even physiological, that? What I do remember talking about is the fact that many people, many consumers of audio description had tried it and given up because they weren't giving the information they needed and wanted. That's not respect. I'm very excited because we need to correct the possible arrogance of sighted people thinking they know what blind people need. No, it's the consumer that should be guiding this. So now there are many examples, and it's a growing thing. Blind sourced audio description, where a person who either cannot see or has limited vision is the one creating the audio description. I hope you'll listen to some examples of this and find out for yourself how well it works. This person will go over the source material, figure out where the gaps are, that speech is possible, and list what information is needed there. And then the blind describer works with a sighted assistant to get details on that. But the blind person is always the boss. And I believe we'll be hopefully hearing more about this later in this symposium. And I know we have a representative from the social audio description collective here. Great example. If you want to be listening to some of these, please check out their work. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about that. Also, Krishna Washburn with Darkroom Ballet. She is a blind ballerina and audio describer, and she talks about the levels of, well, the physiological levels. She wants us to, even old describers, to try to recreate the movements and think how that makes us feel in our skin, our nerves, our muscles, all the way down to the bone, and use that in our interpretations.
That takes us to that word, Shakila.
This is the best thing that's happened in audio description. It will get us more respect, the fact that we're letting the blind lead us. Thank you.
So Mary, that's exactly what you were talking about, and you said the visual made verbal, but now the visual made visceral.
Mm-hmm. Oh, visceral!
Yes, the visual made visceral.
I'm sorry, I forget my own
sinews.
Oh yes, the visual made visceral. And that was so profound, because that's exactly it. You want to feel the experience inside you, not just a technical description. So thank you so much.
Well, believe me, after I tried to do a Grand Prix, I felt it.
Sorry, Mary, are you with us?
I think it's so important to respect the people that this is for. It's not for me. I need to do what the users who are the experts are telling me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah, hand back to you. And
shall we see if our clip is available?
Ross's video ready?
Okay, we're going to try again. Ross?
And Ross, you sound great, so don't complain about your voice.
No, still no sound. Okay, Roz, you're being asked to share one more time, one last attempt.
Okay. What I'll do is actually, if I can, I will share the video itself.
Okay.
It's a grey early dawn on a beach.
If you manage with the video, maybe we can all close our eyes, because we'll hear, and then we could play it again. So if we manage with the one with the audio description. Ros Chalmers has started screen sharing.
Yes. Now it's just really a question of whether the sound will come on this one. It's a grey early dawn on a beach on the Greek island of Lemnos. You hearing anything?
Okay, if we can get the volume any higher, but it is working.
It's a grey early dawn on a beach on the Greek island of Lemnos. 7 ragged displaced women go about their morning routines. Jelly kneads rice flour dough. The kettle steams. Auntie drinks, her intense gaze roaming over the others. Tishani smiles, her hands full of dry, grey driftwood. On the upper level of their makeshift shelter, Yasmin slumbers in a chair. Nearby, Shiloh hangs washing over a piece of string. Magdalena lugs a plastic water container and gives Jelly a drink. Tishani goes to the shoreline. On hands and knees, she collects the long, mottled shells of razor clams, dropping them into a battered tin. Zulika sits a little way off, sipping from a cup. Yasmin's awake, wrapped in a threadbare grey shawl. From her high vantage point, she looks out over the others with a smile.
Good morning, family.
It's a grey early dawn on a beach on the Greek island of Lemnos. Right, we're getting there. Slowly we're getting there.
D, we didn't get the sound effects, yes? So, but I would like to just ask you, that really shows the difference between, for me, between film AD and live AD. The way it's made an immersive experience. We are transported to the beach, to the seashore. We're not told we're looking at a stage and it's set up like this. So could you tell us something about the concept?
Yeah, we never are on stage. Once we get into the show, I mean, when people come up for the touch tour, they are on the stage. Once you're there, you are on a beach in Lemnos. You're in a palace in Vienna. You're in Hansel and Gretel's gingerbread house or whatever. You are in that place, and this is with the visual made visceral, which I think is great, Mary. There's also this sense of immersion. If you watch a video game, if you're playing a video game, you become immersed in that. Your heart rate goes up. Your breath changes. You sweat. We want the same kind of thing with audio description. We want people to be in that moment, be present at all times. And in a theatre, there's a lot going on. There are people reacting to you around you. You've got sound effects that are not sound effects. If you want a sound effects on film, you have perhaps a recorded one. If you want to execute somebody on stage by breaking their neck, you might twist bubble wrap. Now, if you don't set that scene up right, then all the person will hear is bubble wrap. So you've got to really set that scene up right, and people can then just it is this whole suspension of disbelief, really, that you're trying to encourage. But no, the word stage is never mentioned. The word exit and enter are not mentioned. Crossing the room is not mentioned. Any kind of stage terms are not there in the audio description, in the UK at least. It's just absolutely stupid, and it jumps out at you if you hear it.
Yes, thanks, Ros. There was also an earlier comment from Bronwyn, which was talking about creating an immersive experience, and then she just responded to what you were saying and saying exactly as you said, about creating that immersion. Thank you.
You're on my screen at the moment. Thank you. I mean, I think from my call to arms, and there are so many call to arms, is that we have authentic voices doing the audio description, and I have been working with a 12-year-old girl who is blind, and she did the audio description at the National Theatre for a huge musical called The Witches. We wrote it, we collaborated with it, we wrote it collaboratively so that the language would appeal to children of her age. We wrote it so that she could deliver it, and she is a very fluent Braille reader. Going back to what Shakila was saying, how parents are their children's first audio describers. Her parents recognised the value of Braille and what it could mean for her. So we changed things about. She had to open and close the mic, which we used with a foot pedal. And I would cue everything. I cued 800 cues, more than that, probably about 1,200 cues over a period of about 3 hours, almost 3 hours. And she hit every single one. And at the end of it, I was wringing wet, and she was ready for the next show. You know, it was a really, really great experience, because there were 180 children in the audience who were blind, who heard what can be done by a blind person, certainly by a blind child like them.
Thank you for that. That's a great call, and reflects the fact the question should never be why, but how. You know, we shouldn't be having to justify at this point, but to work out how we do it.
You've got to persuade people to do it, but the way you do it is try to make them think that they thought of it first.
Yes.
And if you can do that, then they will, you know, they will fall in line.
Thank you. I would like to ask Esther and Mary, if you have any closing remarks. You're welcome to do a call to action, but you don't have to. Esther.
Just going along with what everyone is talking about, in dance, what I would like to see is choreographers and dancers understanding the need for accessibility and the possibility. I have a choreographer friend who, when I first talked about audio description for dance, he was very negative about it. What do you mean? You're just going to say everything I'm doing? That's like listing the ingredients. And that the ingredients are not the stew. And I had to explain to him what we've been talking about, that no, I'm looking for what it's about, what the essence is, what the whole thing is, in order to shape description that conveys that. And at the end, he said, oh, okay, so I guess the description would have to dance.
Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah, and I said,
Yes.
right, so I want to be in on it, the kind of thing that Joel was talking about and that Roz alluded to as well. I want to be in on the process from the beginning of the rehearsal period and collaborate with the choreographer. So that I'm not always guessing what it's about. One time I was describing from video of a dance piece, and I actually called the choreographer to ask about the title. Like, why is that the title? I don't see that in the piece. And I got a very illuminating answer, but there needs to be that collaboration and that involvement from the beginning.
Mary.
I have to say, I love everything I've heard here. It's so great to appear with so many outstanding professionals in this field. And I think what this is all leading up to for me is we're all saying, let's give the consumer the experience the consumer wants and needs. In 3 words, respect the user. Thank you.
Thank you. Sid, you have a closing comment, a call?
I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be involved in this opportunity as a dancer. What I found is that audio description in this process, because we started working, Deborah, Shakila, and Ntoko. Ntoko was subbed out. But we started working from an early point in the process with Sonali and Tobes. And as Shakila and Deborah we were working together, they were trying to understand exactly what Joel, Esther, Mary, Roz have all been saying, the essence of the piece. And often I feel when I dance, my audience doesn't understand that essence. And it's beautiful, and we're on stage, and it's lovely, and we look nice. But for someone to understand the essence of it, not just from what the dancer is doing, but from another sensory point. That's really important, and I've come to value that with audio description. So I think I would echo what the panelists are saying, is that like a dancer would hire a lighting, company, or like they would hire someone to do sound, we should be hiring audio describers not just to make it more accessible, which is great, but because it actually adds value to what we are trying to put on stage as dancers, and to feel valued in return, I suppose. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Hear, hear.
Joe.
No, that's what I have to say. Hear to Sid and her comment. It needs to be built into the process. It's a part of doing business, as I said earlier. Going back to 1981, the idea, God rest her soul, Dr. Fansteel, Margaret Fansteel, felt like if we're going to offer this to theaters, it's got to be as inexpensive as possible, because they might not do it. Well, we got to get past that attitude. As Shakila said earlier, people who are blind need to demand what is their right as citizens to have their share in a nation's culture. It's part of doing business, and it can't be done on the cheap.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to all our panelists, Esther, Mary, Roz, Sid, and Joel. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who participated in the session. And we are now at 4 o'clock, I think. Almost at 4. So should we go to tea, Shakila? Oh.
No, I'm only joking. Deborah, so our last panel is education. And do you think we could quickly take a 10-minute tea break, Deborah, and people bring their tea and stuff in here?
Is everyone okay if we do a working tea? Yes, lots of nodding.
Okay, so will we do the similar thing and get sighted help to speed up the process?
We can do that. Thank you again to our panelists, and we hope you'll stay with us if you don't need to go to sleep now.
So Tintin has said categorically, please will everyone bring their tea in and not stand outside and chat.